Let's try and understand how consumers make choices. And we're going to look first at traditional consumer choice, or utility theory. Utility is how happy somebody is, or how much satisfaction somebody has. So as economists, we assume that people maximize their utility. Now, they're going to maximize their utility subject to a constraint. Ideally, everybody would have everything they wanted of every good or service that they could possibly get. But that can't happen because we have limited resources. The resource that we're going to look at for consumers is our budget. We only have so much money we can spend. So the first tool we're going to look at is called the budget line. The budget line is a lot like the production possibilities curve. It represents every combination of two goods. Here we're looking at books and movies. The combination of these two goods that we can afford given our budget. If we spent all of our money on movies, we could go to 9 movies. If we spent all of our money on books, we could get 27 books. Or, depending on the prices of books and movies, we could do some combination in between. So this is our budget line. Like a production possibilities curve, we can afford to consume inside our budget line. So this shaded triangle is called our budget set. But you can't afford anything outside your budget line. Now, what about the other side of our decision, our utility, or how happy something makes us? One of the important ideas about utility is diminishing marginal utility. The idea that as you consume more of a good or a service, your utility is going to rise, but it rises at a decreasing rate. So we can see the increase in utility from your 5th movie to your 6th movie is from 225 utils up to 261 utils, where utils are the units of utility. But the increase of your utility from 8 movies to 9 movies is only from 324 up to 351. So it does make you happier. It just doesn't make you as much happier as it did when you were only consuming 5 movies. So when we look at diminishing marginal utility, we can see that total utility is rising, but it rises at a decreasing rate. The important question is, what is marginal utility? And we see that marginal utility goes down as you consume more of a good or a service. So as more movies are consumed, the marginal utility, or the amount that your utility increases as you consume more of that product, goes down. We have diminishing marginal utility. Another important concept is looking at marginal utility per dollar. And if we're going to look at multiple goods and services, we need to compare how much marginal utility we're getting from each dollar that we're spending on a good or a service. So we look at our marginal utility for movies and divide it by the price of movies. Here, let's assume it's $3 per movie. Then our marginal utility per dollar is going to be this dark green line. This allows us to get to something called the equimarginal rule. The equimarginal rule is a way of describing how individuals make consumer choices. And the equimarginal rule says, pick the combination of two activities where the marginal benefit per dollar, here we're looking at the marginal utility, where the marginal benefit per dollar for the first activity equals the marginal benefit per dollar for the second activity. We can look at it as a formula here. Marginal utility for movies divided by the price of movies is equal to the marginal utility for books divided by the price of books. Now let's see why this makes sense. Let's look at the values. All right. If we're going to maximize utility, here are different points on our budget line. We could go 1 movie and 24 books, or 8 movies and 3 books, or 3 movies and 18 books. And what we want to look at is which combination is going to maximize utility. Let's look at an example. Suppose we started at this point with 4 movies and 15 books. And suppose those 4 movies got us 42, a marginal utility of movies of 42. Meaning if we went to 1 more movie, or that last movie got us 42 additional utils of utility. And when you have 15 books as part of your consumption, your marginal utility of your last book was 8 utils. Now those are hard to compare because we're not sure how much we had to spend on each one. So it's more useful to look at the marginal utility per dollar for each good. So again, if we're looking at this combination right here, for this combination right here where we're doing 4 movies and 15 books, let's see if this is as happy as we could be. Well, our marginal utility per dollar of movies is 14. So the last dollar that we spent on movies got us 14 utils. The last dollar that we spent on books got us 8 utils. The marginal utility per dollar for books was 8. So another way to think about that is if we spent $1 less on books, we'd have 8 fewer utils of utility. If we took that dollar and spent it on movies, we'd get 14 more utils of utility. So we would give up 8 utils from books and get 14 utils from movies. That says we should do exactly that. We'll be better off. So we should not consume 4 movies and 15 books. We should consume another movie. Anytime the marginal utility per dollar is not equal between the 2 books, you can maximize your utility or increase your utility by changing your consumption bundle. So the equal marginal principle rule says, let's go to where they're equal. And that's going to be with this combination here, with 6 movies and 9 books. We can see that if we consume this bundle, the marginal utility per dollar from movies is 12. The marginal utility from books is also 12. So the blue circled bundle with 6 movies and 9 books is going to be the one that maximizes utility.